Hey, kia ora, everyone. Welcome to our Tawa school whānau, but also welcome to everyone else who is joining us for this little bit of story time. We're going to pick up from where we left off yesterday with the story Bad Jelly the Witch. This is who the kids saw. Now, the fact that you'd think that if you saw someone like that, you'd be a little bit worried. But hey, this is a story. So I'm just going to read a little bit from yesterday, and then we'll get stuck in for today's part 2 of Bad Jelly the Witch. Hello, children. Can I help you? Tim turned around and saw it was an old woman dressed in black. Don't be afraid, she said. I can make you nice and warm in a few seconds. Just get inside this nice sack and you'll be nice and warm. The children said, Oh, thanks, old woman. We're nearly freezing to death. As soon as the children got into the sack, the woman screamed, Got you! She tied the sack up tight. I'm going to eat you all up because I'm Bad Jelly, the baddest witch in all the world. She put the sack on her back, jumped on a broomstick, and flew up, up, up into the sky. Someone please help us, shouted Tim. But no one could hear them because they were high, very high, up in the sky. Chapter 3. The witch took the children to her castle on top of a mountain that was made of iron, and only the witch had the key to get in. At the gate was a huge horrible monster. His body was red and sticky. It had giant eyes as big as windows. It had sharp yellow teeth like needles, and its tongue was on fire, and all the spit turned to steam. When Bad Jelly ate children, she used to put them on the monster's fire tongue. The witch opened the door. Inside was a servant, a giant called Dolboot. He was as big as a house. He had purple hair and 10 eyes all around his head, so he could look behind him and see the pimples on his back. Bad Jelly told the giant to take the sack with the children. Put them into a dark room right on top of the prison tower and don't let them out of the sack. In a deep voice, the giant said, All right. He carried the sack up thousands of steps. He opened a door and he threw the sack with the children in on the cold stone floor and locked the door. There's Dolboot, the giant. Poor Tim and Rose were crying. Then out of Tim's pocket popped Dinkelmouse. Don't cry, he said. I've got sharp teeth. And he started to nibble and nibble, and he made a hole big enough. Me and Daddy again. Tomorrow the witch will eat us up with peanut butter. The sun was going down, and the room was getting very dark. Dinkelmouse suddenly said, I've got an idea. I know a big, strong eagle called Jim. He's my friend. I'll go try and get him. Dinkelmouse jumped on the window ledge and climbed the ivy on the outside of the tower down to the ground. Please hurry, the witch is going to kill us in the morning, said the children. So Dinkelmouse ran as fast as he could. He ran. That's a very big tower. Dinkelmouse would have had to travel down a long way to get down the ivy. Chapter 4. Back at the children's home, their mummy was crying. Oh, my poor children, where are they? Their daddy said, I've looked everywhere. I think some animal in the forest must have eaten them. Poor mummy, I'll never be able to play the trombone to them again, she said. By now, Dinkelmouse had reached the tree where Jim the giant eagle lived. Jim was fast asleep. When he heard Dinkelmouse calling, Help, wake up, Jim, yap-a-dap-a-doo! Jim was a beautiful eagle with brown feathers on his body, white feathers on his head, and a big yellow beak and blue eyes, and he was nearly as strong as God. Hurry, the witch is going to eat the children when the sun comes up. There's Jim the eagle. So Jim the eagle quickly took off his pajamas. Dinkelmouse jumped on Jim's beak and back, not his beak, his back, and away they flew. Faster, faster, Jim, the sun will be coming up, shouted Dinkelmouse. Chapter 5. Back in the prison room, the children were looking out the window. Can you see the eagle coming, Tim? Said Rose. No, said Tim. Look, said Rose, the sun is starting to come up. And listen, I can hear the witch coming up the stairs. Step, 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 I'm coming to get you, screamed the witch. They could see her through the keyhole, and she had a big, sharp knife. Rose said, look out the window. I can see Jim the Eagle coming. The witch was starting to open the door. Now Jim the Eagle flew up to the window. Quick, children, get on my back. But the witch was opening the door. The children were getting on Jim's back. Stop them! Screamed the witch. But the children were on the mighty eagle's back, and away they flew, away from the terrible witch. She was so angry, she screamed, stick your bow to all of you! Nickers, nickers, nickers! She jumped on her fastest broomstick and started to chase after the children. And she took a magic powder to throw on the children and turn them into big black sausages. Jim the Eagle flew up and hid inside a cloud, when the witch flew round and round the cloud, waiting for Jim and the children to come out. Just then, God came along, and when he saw what the wicked witch started to do to Tim and Rose, he told the witch to go away. No, I won't, said the witch, and she tried to scratch God's eyes out. So God pointed his finger at the witch, and boom, bang, spiddly-dee! The witch burst like a bomb and disappeared in smoke, and a broomstick turned into a sky snake that flew to the moon. When Jim the Eagle saw that Bad Jelly was dead, he flew the children back to the witch's castle to look for Lucy. There she is, said Rose, and there chained to a wall was poor Lucy. Quickly, Jim flew down next to her. She was so pleased to see the children that she went, moo, and cried. Jim the Eagle broke her chain with his beak, but then the back door of the castle opened and out came Dullboot, the giant. Get away from that cow. It belongs to me. She's my dinner, he said, and he drew out his sword and tried to chop the children's heads off. But Jim grabbed the giant by the hair while Dingle Mouse jumped on the giant, nibbled his belt, and down came the giant. I'm sorry, my bare bottom. And he ran to Bottomland and never came back. Now we're all safe, said Tim. Yes, thanks to Dingle Mouse and Jim. And she gave them both a kiss. Then Jim got the children and Dingle Mouse on his back. Then he flew up, grabbed Lucy's horns in his strong claws, then flew them back to their home. When their mummy and daddy saw them fly down on the back of a giant eagle with Lucy hanging underneath, they ran inside the house and hid. Don't be frightened, mummy and daddy. Jim is a kind eagle and saved our lives. Up popped Dingle Mouse. So did I. I helped save them too, he said. So mummy and daddy came out with a big bag of jelly babies and gave them to Jim and Dingle Mouse. And then they all played Ring of Rosies, and then they blindfolded Lucy and played Blind Man's Buff and lived happily ever after. So that's Bad Jelly the Witch by Spike Milligan. I hope and I guess we've got the weekend coming up and the school holidays, but we're going to be running this over the school holidays for the next 2 weeks. So if you want to check that out, it'll be the same time, 10 o'clock. You can check out all the details on the Tawa School website. Also, you can, if you want to subscribe to this channel, you'll get updates through that as well. From next week, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to do something for our younger kids. I'll be reading a story for our younger children, as well as I'm going to start doing a little bit of a serialized series of Roald Dahl's The Twits. So look forward to seeing you on Monday. I'm going to take a break over the weekend and get some practice in. And we'll see you guys all next week. Look after yourselves. Ka kite anō.